Okay, so welcome again to this session on our training. Now we're going to be talking about data cleaning. And like I said, there is need to have a systematic format in which you do your data management processes so that you can have a clear picture of what you're doing. And also, whomever is looking at your work, your script, also understands the process that is being. That is the beauty of R, in that you can share your script, your codes with anyone, anywhere, and they can follow what you've done once you've followed a systematic format. So looking at data cleaning, I said we will look at variable types, select and filter, rename variables, find and deal with missing data, find and deal with duplicates, and recode values. Okay, so Prof. Isichi was telling me before we started this session that she had challenge in finding a data set that she could use to practice what we did yesterday. And I was telling her that's a very, very easy thing. R actually has thousands of data sets that we can work with that is embedded in its environment. Once you are able to install certain packages, you have access to those data sets to work with. And one of those packages, the very vital one, is what we call the tidyverse package. So I'm just going to walk us systematically through that process right now. Okay, so yesterday we talked about how to install a package in R, and we defined packages as bundles of functions that kind of expand the operationality and the vocabulary of R. So we looked at the way to install the package as install the packages. Like I said, when you type a function, R tries to predict exactly what you want to type. So this first option is what I want. So I click on it and it gives me that. And then I click on, I want to install the tidyverse package. So Dr. Messi, you asked me yesterday, when do you use inverted commas, dots and stuff? So when you're installing a package, that's one of the places where you use your inverted commas. So you put on your inverted commas and then you type tidyverse, and then you come out of it and then you click Control Enter. So you can see in the console where it wrote package tidyverse is in use and will not be installed. You know, yesterday I told us that installation can only be done once. Once you've installed a package in R, you don't need to install it again. And you know, we installed this package yesterday. So that's why it's telling me that it's in use and will not be installed. But since this is a new script, I told us we have to install and load a package. Since this is a new script I'm working on, it requires that I load the package in it. And to load the package, the function is library, which is there. And then I type my tidyverse and then Control Enter. So it loads the package, it loads this package. So tidyverse is a very versatile package in R because it's not just a package on its own, it's a package of packages. Within tidyverse, it contains other packages within it that expands its function. So once I have installed and loaded tidyverse, there is a data set called Star Wars that is embedded, but we can just look at all the data sets in R here by clicking data and then open bracket and close and then Control Enter. So it just lists several data, all these data sets here, a data set you can work with. You can choose any of them to practice. You can see there are several hundreds of them here. So going back to our script, The data set I want us to work with is a data set called Star Wars. And then let us view what it looks like. If you notice, all the commands I am trying to write start with small letters. Install starts with small I, library small l, data small d. However, there's a change in here. When you're going to type view, view is one of the few commands in R that has capital letter. So I want to highlight this for us to see. Okay, so I said we're going to work on Star Wars. Star Wars is a data set in R. So to view it, I'm just going to click Control Enter. And now it gives me a beautiful, let me expand this source page so that we can. Okay, so this is the data set, Star Wars. It contains several variables: name, height, mass, hair colors, skin color, eye color, birth year, sex, blah, 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 and goes up till this. So this is a beautiful data set that we can work on. If you look down here, it shows us that it's just showing us 1 to 19 of 87 entries and 47. So we already have a summary of the dimension of this data set. It says it has 87, what's it called now? Sorry, someone is trying to join, that's good. It has 87 observations and 14 variables, columns and rows. So this the data was I said that was Star Wars data set. Okay, fine. So we have seen that. So and then the command we use to bring that up is view Star Wars. Like I said, once you have installed and loaded your tidyverse, those data sets are available to you to access at any time. So Star Wars is one of them. Okay, so we're going to do. Okay, fine. Before we go ahead and clean it, let's just do some of the exploration steps that we did with the former one. So let's start with dimension. So dimension, Star Wars. We said dimension tells us the number of rows and columns. So when I click Control Enter, I think I need to bring back our 4 quadrants. So dim Star Wars gives us tells us that there are 87 rows and 14 columns in this data set of Star Wars. Now, if we say glimpse and Star Wars, Control Enter. So glimpse summarizes the data set for us. It still tells us there are 87 rows, like it says here, and tells us there are 14 columns, like it says here. And then it gives us the values of the variables. It tells us there is name, height, mass, hair color, blah, blah, blah. And then this second row here tells us what class the variable is. So for example, name is a character variable. Height is an integer, which is also another name for numerical variable, which are whole numbers. Mass is DBL. DBL is a way R describes numerical variables which are continuous, which have like decimal points. So R describes 2 types of numerical variables. It has the integer, which are whole numbers, and then it has the DBL, which are still numerical, but they have decimal points. But both of them are numerical variables. So it tells us hair color is a character variable like that. So this just tells us what classes these variables are in. And then it also lists the first few values of that variable. Okay, so that's glimpse. Let's look at what other thing do we use to explore? Head and Star Wars. Control Enter. Like I said, head gives us the first 6 rows of that data set. You can see number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the first 6 rows of the data set is what head tells us about. And then its counterpart, tail, gives us the last 6 rows of this data set. You can see this is the last 6 rows of the data set. Then we also talked about unique. Okay, no, let's look at summary. Summary and Star Wars. Control Enter. Now, summary is unique in that it summarizes each particular variable in that data set according to what class it is. If it's a character variable, it just tells us, let's go up so that we can look at what it's doing. Okay, fine. Let me expand this so that we can see it very well. No, this is not good. Okay, so this is summary here. So summary, like I said, it takes each variable in that data set and gives us a summary. If it's a character variable, it just tells us how many observations are within that variable and what class that variable is. For example, name has 87 observations, and the class is character. However, when you're summarizing a numerical variable, it gives us a summary of the minimum value, the first quartile, the median, the mean, the third quartile, maximum, and then it tells us if there are NAs. NAs is not available. That's missing values. So this is what summary does. It picks each of the variable and it just summarizes them for us. So by the time you do this, you actually begin to picture what your data set looks like. So having done that, let's get back to our quadrants. Okay, so we have briefly explored our data. The next thing we're going to do is now to clean the data. Let's go back here. So I just copy this into our new scripts. Okay, so in cleaning data, I talked about looking at the variable types, the select and filter, rename variables, find and deal with missing data, find and deal with duplicates, and recode values. Okay, so let's take them one by one. So the first one we talked about is variable types. Okay, so by the time you use the glimpse function already told us what are the classes of the variables that we have. Let me get to that point. Okay, fine. Okay, so this was the glimpse command we gave, and glimpse command has given us a summary of the data set, and it has told us what class each of these variables are. Sometimes certain variables might not have been well characterized by R, and you want to modify that variable. For example, if we look at, let's look at the data set here. Where is Star Wars? Star Wars, okay. Okay, so let's look at gender, for example. We're looking at this particular column now, gender. Now, if you look at the console here, gender is characterized, is classified as a character variable. However, you might want to analyze gender as a factor variable. Factor variables in R are what we know as categorical variables. Categorical variables are variables that have a particular order. Maybe let's say we have something like small, medium, and big. We have single, married, divorced, widowed. So those kind of variables are categorical variables, but R refers to them as factor variables. So there are some variables that R by itself might categorize as character variables, which you want to analyze as factor variables. So you can actually modify the class of a particular variable in your data cleaning process. So like I said, like here, gender is classified as a character, but we want to classify gender as a factor variable. So we go back to our script. So under variable types, we can also just look at what the class of a variable is. Star Wars and gender. Okay. And we click Control Enter. And in the console, it tells us that Star Wars is a character, gender is a character variable. Now, I haven't talked to us about this operator, this $sign. $sign is like saying subset. For example, we have the data set called Star Wars. Then within that data set called Star Wars, it has a subset of variables in it, which include gender, sex, and all those variables. So now, when you are giving a function, a command to a variable, you cannot give a command straight to a variable. Like we cannot just say class and then we write gender, because R needs us to follow a process. It wants to know what data set contains this gender. So we'll first have to tell R we are dealing with this data set, and then within that data set, we're dealing with this variable. So that's what this first code in here is doing. So we are looking for the class of gender, but we're telling R that gender is inside the Star Wars data set. So this is Star Wars subset gender. So if I run this code, let me run the second one, class gender, so that we can understand what I mean. If I run a Control Enter, you see in the console, it tells me error, object gender not found. And that's because R does not know what data set we are talking about. But when I do class and then I do Star Wars $sign gender and I run it, Control Enter, you see it tells me that gender is a character variable because it goes inside the Star Wars dataset and finds the variable called gender. Okay, so we want to change this variable class of character to a factor, like I said. And to do that, what we need to do is the function is as.factor. See, R has predicted what I wanted to type and give me a list, so I just choose this one. And then I write Star Wars, also $sign gender. And then I click console. This is how to change a variable class. So as factor is telling R, convert this gender in the Star Wars, convert the class to factor. As factor is the function. So when I click Control Enter, so it has converted it. And then if I now ask the same question again now, what is the class of Star Wars $gender. I click Control Enter. No, it's still telling me no. It means it has not done what I asked it to do. Okay, I needed to assign. Okay, let's do Star Wars 2, and then we assign this. Star Wars as gender. Also, so sorry, I just want to make sure. Star Wars 2. Okay, error. This is this. Object Star Wars 2 not found. I'm just assigning you. Let's see. And then this. Okay, fine. So we have converted Star Wars gender, and we did equal to as factor Star Wars gender. So this as factor has converted the class of gender, which was initially character, to a factor variable. And then when we typed in class of Star Wars gender, it now tells us in the console that it has been converted to factor. You can all see it here. If we then just do our glimpse, Star Wars, we can see here that gender has been converted to a factor variable. Initially, it was character, but by this command that we have given here, we have converted the class of gender, which was initially factor, which was initially character, we have converted to a variable. So that's one way to modify a variable type in the process of data cleaning. Okay, let's move ahead. So the next thing we want to talk about is select and filter. So select and filter are very wonderful tools and functions that R uses. Now, to give you a props up, select is usually used on variables. Filter is used on observations. So select is used on variables, filter on observations. If we look at this data set, select can be used on the variables, which includes skin color, eye color, birth year, sex, gender, blah, 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 blah. That's where select works. Then filter works on the observations. So these observations here, that's where your filter works, just to give us a props up. So, for example, in data sets, I want to select. When select is very useful is maybe you're working on a data set that has probably like 150 variables, and you want to select a few of them and work with at each given particular point in time. That's where the select function comes in very, very handy. For example, there's a data set I'm working on right now. We are doing a project on knowledge about Noma in the northwestern part of the country. And the number of variables in that data set are 151. So working on 151 variables can be cumbersome if I'm working on all of them at the same time. So what select function helps us to do is you can select a few of your variables and work on them at each particular given point in time. Select can also help you rearrange the structure of the variables. So let's just begin to see what I'm talking about. Let's look at the data set again before we do that. So this data set has name, height, age, mass, hair color, skin color, eye color, da. Okay, so let's assume I just want to look at the variables name, height, mass, and hair color. Just these first four I want to work on. So I come here and I say select. Once you start typing a function, R gives you a list of what it thinks you want to type. So it is select I want. So I click on select and it puts that on for me. And then I click, we said we wanted to look at name, height. Like I said, as you're typing it, R just brings up suggestions. So I click on height. And I think it had mass. And then I underscore color. How did it spell color now? Did it U? Okay. Sorry, I color. Okay, I color, fine. Okay, so I color. So I want to work on these four variables: name, height, mass, and high color. So as I type name, I put a comma, height, I put a comma, mass, comma, eye color, and then I close the brackets. So if I click on Control Enter at the end of this, oh, sorry, I haven't even specified. Okay. I didn't specify can anybody tell me why we have an error here? Quickly, why it gives us an error for this command I selected?
We didn't write where the data set is coming from.
Thank you very much. Excellent, Dr. ECJ. Yes, you're following. So we need to tell R what data set we're dealing with. Beautiful. I like that. So that will bring me to introduce, I mentioned above about some operators in R. We talked about pipe operator. So I'm going to introduce our pipe operator here right now. So our data set is Star Wars, right? So Star Wars, and I'll introduce our pipe operator. To do your pipe operator, I said you click Control and Shift and M, and then that happens. So let me bring this here. Okay, so usually what I would have done if I was, because like I said, we're working in tidyverse. Tidyverse is an improvement on R-base. R-base is the basic functions that R was created with. But because R is free and open source, people from all over the world have been developing different packages and inputting it in R. And that's how tidyverse came to be. So tidyverse is like an improvement on the former R base. So in R, if I write a command, someone else might write a command that can do exactly the same thing, but writes it in another way. So there are several ways to come to the same product in R, so that you don't just see what I'm doing here, and then maybe when you see another person's script, you say, but this is not what Dr. Ken told us. R has different packages that can make you arrive at a same product. So what I'm going to be dwelling more on for us in this tutorial is the tidyverse package, which is a very beautiful one to work with. Okay, so Star Wars, before in the above here, to get to a variable, we click the data set, and then we use $, and then we click the variable. However, this is the R-base type of code. In tidyverse package, what we do is we pipe in the data set into the next function that we want to do. So instead of doing this highlighted one here, we write the data set, which is Star Wars, and then we use our pipe operator. So pipe operator says, take whatever is in this data set and pipe it into the function I'm about to write now. So Star Wars pipe operator can in English, you can just say and then. So Star Wars and then select name, height, mask, eye color. So when I run this command, so you can see it has given us, this is the command we run, Star Wars select this is this. And here it has selected just these 4 variables that we asked to select. So this is name, height, mask, eye color. So that's one of the ways you use select command in R, or select function in R, to select a few variables that you want to work on at each particular point in time. Now, you can also use select to rearrange the pattern in which your variables are in your data set. For example, let me do this. Star Wars, and then I click a pipe operator, which is Control Shift and M, and then I click select, and then I want to first see hair color, and then I want to see skin color. You can see as I'm typing it, R is bringing out what it thinks I want to type, and then I want to see eye color, and then I want to see everything else. So this everything tells R, select hair color first, skin color, eye color, and then every other variable that is there. That's the information I've just given to R in this place. So when I do that, Command Control Enter. So that's what it has done for me in this place. So if you look at the console, the first variable here is hair color, skin color, eye color, and then it now puts every other variable that is there. If you look at the initial data set, you can see it's first name, height, mass, hair color, skin color, eye color. But by this command that I've given, I've rearranged the way I want to view the data set. You can see in this place, the first is name, but here my first is hair color, skin color. So by this command, I have told R how I want the variables to be arranged. Okay, so that's that for that. We move on. Select can also be used in another way. You can use, say, Star Wars, put in our pipe operator and say select. We can say we want variables that contain color. For example, we want variables that contains color. No. No, this is not it. Sorry. Okay, let's leave this. Let's just move ahead. So we've seen a few things we can do with select. So select is used on variables. Now, the beauty of pipe operator, this pipe operator, which is a function in tidyverse package, is that after we've done this, we can still tell our pipe this, what we have done this into another function. We can say pipe operator here, and maybe say filter what do we say now? Okay, let's look at the data sets. Let me look at eye color. Okay, eye color has blue in it. Okay, so okay, I want to filter eye color, only the blue in eye color. So what I will do is I will tell R filter eye color. If eye color is equal to blue, filter it. Blue should be okay. So Prof. Isichie, this is another place where you use inverted commas. So when you're writing a value within any command, and what I mean by a value are all these things within this place, they are all values. For example, in eye color, blue is a value, yellow is a value. In height, 167 is a value, 200. So all this, when you're writing a value inside a command, you put the value in inverted commas. So I've mentioned two places now where you use inverted commas. One is when you're installing packages and you're loading packages, you put the package in inverted commas. The second is when you are writing, you're including a value inside a command, you also use inverted commas. Okay, so I have asked R to select these four variables of name, height, mass, and eye color from the dataset Star Wars. And then I have asked it after doing that, and then filter the variable of eye color, only the color blue in that variable. You can see here, I used 2 equal to sign and not 1. When you're using the function filter, the equal to sign is 2 because you're actually saying if eye color is blue, filter it. If eye color is equal to blue, filter it. So that's why the equal to is 2. Okay, so let me run this command. Let me press Control Enter, and we'll see what it does. So you can see what R has done. We still have our name, height, mass, and eye color. However, in eye color, we only filtered only the blue colors. You can see here is only blue that is under eye color because we filtered only the blue ones. Are we appreciating it? Are we appreciating what I'm doing?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
That's good. Okay, now, if you look at this code, it does not fit into the page. I have to drag this to be able to see what I've written in this. And then, like I said, the beauty of the pipe operator is that you can keep going. After this, you can put another pipe operator and still do something else. So that's the beauty of pipe operator. Okay, the session will end in the next 1 minute. So I'm going to end us and log us on again so that we can continue from where we stopped. Is that okay? Dr. Gabe, I hope we're learning something. Okay. Ah, Josephine is here. Josephine, you're welcome. Can you say hi? Okay. It's all right. I'm going to end our session.